live demo, so that means I have a few opportunities to mess up, right? My name is Morgan Adolfsson. I am a solution architect here at Qlik, so that means I am in the technical side of things. So we hear a lot about these brilliant technologies that are out, and me being sort of on the developer side, huge nerd, I'm using these technologies every single day. Using ChatGPT for too much, I don't want to admit. Using, AI-generated images. I'm using, even everyday applications that are using these in technologies that I'm really, really used to and comfortable using. So basically, I'm seeing all of these technologies, AI, machine learning, sort of evolve in these technologies that I'm using every single day. So it's really, really great to see that the technology that is so near and dear to my heart, Qlik, is also developing this at the same pace as the market. So we're really not missing a beat. We're really on top of all these trends that Dan so well put in terms of the market and just what is now, right? So it's really, really good to sort of go over and see it more of a technical level, but also more of just an environment level. What does it look like now in Qlik? What do we mean by implementing AI into Qlik? Because AI is an umbrella term, right? It can mean a lot of things. So what does that actually mean inside of Qlik? How does that affect those who are working inside of the platform? And what's the ideas here going forward? So what I want to do today in this session is just go through all of the things that Dan has talked about and show you how we are actually putting them to practice, because a lot of these trends, as we should, are driving a lot of our development and driving a lot of our innovation inside of Qlik. So let's see sort of where rubber meets the road, so to speak. But before we sort of get into the AI, machine learning, and all this great stuff, I want to show sort of what Dan spoke about, is that we are still investing in some of the core, some of the bread and butter components of Qlik. First and foremost, and one of the things that I love to see all the time is just our visualizations and our dashboard creations, right? I think one of the things that everybody knows is how much people are adopting, how many end users are now starting to sit in front of data applications and inside of Qlik and start building dashboards and building reports. And so we've really doubled down on development in making Qlik really a self-service and a really, really easy to use visualization and report builder. So we, of course, want to invest in that and make that even easier. So what you're seeing now is in the cloud, we have what is called a simplified authoring experience. Again, this is one of the investments that allows us to bring in more end users who maybe are just getting started with Qlik and start building really, really powerful and good-looking visualizations. So if you're used to building applications in Qlik, you can see a few things that are different here. As you can see, I have a representation of my data here down at the bottom. So personally, when I'm usually developing Qlik dashboards, I'm in the other authoring experience, and I really don't know what this value actually entails. So we can do a lot of things here. We can actually visualize before we start building, and we can start doing things like just dragging and dropping these values onto my canvas. And as you'll see, it's sort of updating automatically. And again, there's a component of sort of AI that is generating the best sort of visualizations for the values and the fields that we are dragging and dropping. So I can continue with this. As you can see, I have a KPI for my base fee. I can do something like bring in plan name. And what's great about this is I can actually do a drop down here and see actually where how my values are represented when I look into this particular value. So you can see in my plan names I have 1,523 representations of purple plan, green plan, blue plan. I can see the numbers here, so I can actually choose what sort of values I actually want to bring into my visualization. So again, I just drag and drop, and again, you will see a sort of an automatic generation of this visualization. To take that even further, I can actually just click and select and deselect values in a particular field. So you can see here, if I want to maybe represent in my churn column the yes value, I simply click that, and you will see again that we have a sort of a visualization that's being represented here. So you can see that it's very easy to start getting really, really good looking visualizations and really and really understand exactly what you're building because you do have this representation of your values. So doubling down on this, we want to make this experience even more powerful. And this is where we start to talk about AI inside of Qlik, right? So there's a few instances where we are sort of sprinkling in some AI. We can really apply it to many, many different parts of the platform, as you'll see throughout the sessions. But another thing that we wanted to do that is, on the back end, handled by our AI component in the engine, and that's called analysis types. So what are analysis types? Analysis types is us being able to tell the engine exactly what sort of analyses we want to do, and the AI and the intelligent part of the engine is going to actually go in and give us the stage to sort of build these really, really complex, somewhat complex visualizations in a very self-service and easy type of way. So you can see here I'm given a listing of different types of analysis that I can do. So I can look at something like trends over time. So rather than having to actually be in a dashboard and doing your set analysis or doing your expression editor, we can actually tell the engine, this is the type of analysis that I want to do. So we have trending, we have overviews, we have relative importance, and we can do a lot. So I'll click on create analysis. In this particular example, I want to do sort of a k-means clustering. And so all we do is simply click that, and then we're given now this sort of template builder. So now the engine knows that we want to do a k-means clustering analysis type. So it's given us, it's went into our fields, into our data set, and it said, okay, of all these fields that you have, these are the values that are able to build a k-means clustering. So removes all that guesswork and really leads us in a clear direction to build this type of analysis. So we simply start clicking the values that we would like to represent. I'll click account name as well. And you see a few things has happened now where we have, of course, our k-means clustering visualization here. But you can see on the right-hand side, we have insights. Dan talked a lot about natural language generation and natural language processing, right? Well, this is another example of that component in the platform. And so we look at some insights that it's found while it's scouring our data. It's seeing that the smallest cluster contains 134 items. The largest cluster contains 167 items. So again, just gives us some intelligent information and helping us understand what exactly it is that we're looking at. And that can come in to a lot of different helpful points when building through this visualization. So again, this is the AI component of our, one of the AI components of our platform that is working. I want to say one thing, and this might be for the developers out there, but there's a really, really interesting and cool thing which is this thumbs up and thumbs down. That's cool, right? We all know what it's like to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down on our particular social media posts. Well, let me tell you, because this actually represents something really important for me when it comes to AI in the platform. And so me, as an end user, as a business analyst, will look at this visualization that the engine and the AI has given us, and I can say, this is good or this is bad. What does that do? Well, me as sort of the administrator, I can actually pull that information while also the AI is listening to that information, and you're actually giving it suggestions. So it's not just a black box saying, here you go. We actually have a little bit of control to actually say, tell the AI, this is a good visualization. We would like to see more of these. Or the opposite, we would like to see less of these. And I can actually add comments to these too. So as an administrator, we do have that sort of back-end visibility into sort of leading the AI in the right direction. So we do have that programmability and that control of it. And I think that's really important to know, especially if we're putting so much trust in the AI inside of Qlik. So moving right along, I can go ahead and add this to my sheet. I can navigate to there, and you can see that, again, we're starting using different components of the authoring experience, start building out a really, really good-looking and valuable sort of dashboard. I'll go ahead and now switch to our advanced authoring experience. I think this is where most of you who are building dashboards are used to building. And I want to show you, again, another sort of iteration of what I was talking about with the natural language insights. And Dan touched on this, and that's the use of natural language generation. So I'll navigate to my master items, go to visualizations, and you can see here we have a new object called natural language generation. So when I drag and drop that into the canvas, we can see an additional type of natural language generation that is occurring because the AI is, again, looking at our data set and giving us some natural language analysis types to consider as we are building out our visualization. And of course, because it's Qlik, one thing that's really, really cool about this is that actually updates on each click. So right now, it's set to sort of a default mode, but if I click a particular account or a particular value, these natural language, insights are actually going to update on each click. So as we are running through the analysis, as we are running through the sheet, we actually can see this natural language processing happen in real time and giving us that information as we are analyzing our dashboard, which just gives, again, a new sort of way of working inside of the dashboard. It's not just you and having to come up with all of these insights and analyses on your own, but we do have that additional support from these sort of new tools. And of course, we can send this out in burst reporting, as Dan mentioned, with our PowerPoint and Excel sort of bursting output. So you can see here, I sort of sent this to my mail. I can open it up, and this really, really good looking report is now in PowerPoint in my mailbox. And again, this is being sort of extended to both Excel, but we have PowerPoints, PDF right now. So let's look at sort of the more advanced sort of options, and this is going back to some of the AI and machine learning capabilities that we were speaking of, that Dan was speaking about earlier. So again, we made this acquisition of a company called Big Squid, which gave us this really, really powerful automated machine learning tool, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. But we're able to leverage some of that technology and put it into sort of native experiences inside of the platform. And one of those things that we can do now natively is what's called key driver analysis, and this is directly in our dashboard. So what I'll do here is right-click a particular visualization that you see I've built earlier, and I click key drivers. I go ahead and pick my target. And so what does this mean? Well, before I get into what key driver analysis is, I need to pick a field or a value in my data set that I would like to know this information about. So let's pick service rating. So in this particular example, I am working with a telecommunications data set. And so I have things like, what is my customer's base fee? What is the type of plan that they are on? And what is the service rating? What sort of rating do they give us as a company as a service? And that's what I want to figure out this information on. So I click service rating, and I'll click start analysis. And what that's going to do is it's going to open our key driver analysis. So let me describe a little bit what key driver analysis is. So as you know, we are picking service ratings. So we want to know what are the key drivers behind our company's service rating. So what does that mean? What values in our data set is influencing this particular field, which is service rating? So it actually goes into our data set and says, okay, your territory, the territory value in your data set, the prior period usage, and the current period usage, these are all three values that are contributing to the number of your service rating. So it's either making it very high or very low. Either way, these are the values in your data set that are actually influencing the outcome of this particular field. This is sort of a game changer in my book because we talk a lot about going from descriptive analytics, which is where we have these visualizations in a dashboard, to now prescriptive analytics, which is telling us why this is happening. So rather than just saying, okay, this is our service rating, guys, what are we going to do about that? We can say, okay, what exactly are the influencers or the key drivers behind the influence of this particular value? So we actually have more of a targeted understanding of what is actually happening in our data. And this is where the sort of modern data analysis is in this prescriptive analytics. So it's really, really powerful and such a game changer to have this now native inside of Qlik. So let's take this even further. We can see that territory is the largest contributor to our average service rating, right? So let's analyze that a bit further. And I will click territory. And now it gives down another level. Because in my data set, I have territories represented by these particular states in the US, and I can actually see which territories I need to focus on. So if I'm sitting there as an analyst and saying, okay, well, we know we need to do something about these territories. And then we get this information. Okay, now we know exactly which territories are influencing or actually minimizing the influence of this particular value. Now we can have a discussion. We can have a discussion around West Virginia, who is at the bottom of the list here. Maybe we need to get that service rating up. So now we can contact, the departments dealing with West Virginia, and we can start stimulating campaigns around that area. And you see how this prescriptive analysis allows us to have a much more targeted conversation around what we are going to do. And this is sort of the power of machine learning and AI sort of in practice. We can go down a level further, and we can start looking at outliers. So now I have a distribution list, and you can see here, if we look at Nebraska, here, we have one particular value that's actually an outlier and is unproportionately affecting that particular value. So now we have this breakdown, and we're able to analyze this individual, maybe as a customer or territory, even further. So again, this is one of the key components of machine learning, which is just key driver analysis. That's just sort of one of the pillars of machine learning. And so having the ability again to do this now in Qlik, leveraging the AutoML capabilities that we have and really integrating it so well into the dashboard experience. So this was our dashboard experience, right? This is, again, where we have found a way to leverage the technology and actually put it into the platform in a more targeted way. Let's look a little bit more at what AutoML looks like. It's been a big topic today, and I want to show you sort of how easy it is. And before I get into it, let's talk about our adaptation of machine learning inside of Qlik. So one of the key reasons why we loved the Big Squid software is because they occupied a space that we normally call the citizen data scientist, right? So we understand that there are a whole host of AI and machine learning technologies out there by Amazon and Google, and basically you name it, they have a tool out there. These tools are generally very complex, takes a lot of coding, takes a lot of compute power, takes a lot of investment to get started. We don't want to compete with that, right? We wanted a tool that we, as data analysts or administrators or Qlik developers, be able to take our QVDs, our data sets, our connections, utilize what we already have, and simply upload them into the platform and start getting results quickly. So we like to say that we take care of the 90% of machine learning questions that an organization might have, where the 10% are the more serious that take a lot of investment. We want to be able to be rapidly deployed and rapidly see answers when we do that. So having said that, that is, again, the sort of development track that we've taken. Let's look at what a machine learning experiment now in the cloud looks like. So again, I will just do the drop down, add new. I'm going to be analyzing churn. So I'm still working with that telecommunications data set. And I'm going to be seeing which customers are going to leave us or which customers are going to stay. So I'm going to analyze customer attrition or churn in this particular data set. So I name my machine learning experiment. And the very first step, and this is the first step, this is how training machine learning models work, is that I need to take historical data. I need to tell the machine learning algorithms, I'm going to say, this is 2 years of data. Look at it. Tell me what sort of patterns, what sort of associations you find in it, and build me a model. So that's what we're doing now. So I will take what we call a training data set that I have as a CSV file. I can either upload or, of course, utilize our QVDs. And I click our historical data set and get to this screen. Now, this is really sort of where a lot of the magic happens. And as you can see, a lot's going on here. So we have a representation of all of the data set. But we see a few things happening here on the right. Now, it's not necessary that you know what exactly is going on. This is part of the automated part of the tool. But the tool is actually taking and looking at our values and doing things like removing values that don't need to be there. So this one here is high cardinality, which just means that there are too many unique values. So imagine if you had a data set and you had first name, last name as one of your values. That's not really valuable. The tool will go ahead and remove that and sort of make it so you can really just click one button and get started. So what I want to do now, the only necessary next step in this is actually telling it what I want to solve for. And that, as we discussed, was customer churn. So I click my target, and as you can see, we're sort of ready to go already. What's happened is again, the tool has included or excluded fields that is going to be helpful in training the model. It's selected what sort of algorithms it should be using, because this is a specific type of machine learning question that we're asking, which is called binary classification. It's done all that, and as you can see, all I have to do is really press Run Experiment. And as it's running here, you will see the result. So now we have our first iteration of the model. So as you saw, it's really easy, right? It's really easy to upload the data set, click your target, and now we're actually analyzing a machine learning model. And so what are we looking at here? And don't get me wrong, this takes a little bit of a learning curve to understand sort of these values, but this is not data science territory. It took somebody like me, and as Dan was saying, sort of empowered a data analyst to becoming now the machine learning guy. So it's very, very simple to learn. And basically what we're looking at here is just how the model is actually performed. So we have a few metrics here. We have an F1 score, which really just means the higher the better, the more accurate it is. You can see we have, of course, accuracy and precision scores. And at the end of the day, we just want those to be as good as possible, right? And it's also important that we get information of how accurate the model is. If we're going to be spending so much energy putting this sort of model into production, we want to make sure that it's performing well, right? And we get those things back. We get something that's pretty easy to understand, which is our confusion matrix. And that's going to tell us how many true positives it has had, how many times it has correctly made a true guess or prediction, and also with true negatives. So we get that visibility, and that's really important as well, because a lot of tools, you actually have to do a lot of testing with the model to get these sort of metrics. So this is readily available for us that we're actually just say, okay, we can actually trust this model, we can actually use it in production. And lastly, we said what's really important is SHAP importance. This I won't get into too much, but it's basically going to tell us a little bit like the key driver analysis does. It's going to say, when we're predicting churn, these are the values that are actually really important to predict yes or no. So I can actually go in and say, plan type is going to be the biggest influencer to predicting if a customer is going to leave us or not. Already we have very, very valuable information to take away and say, okay guys, plan type, we need to look at everybody's plans, see what they're on, and change them if necessary, because that is the biggest contributor for them to leave or stay with us. So of course we can go through iterations. One question that I got was versioning. We can very easy, because machine learning experiments, this is all iterative processes. So we can very easily train version 2, version 3, version 4, which will all be saved and versioned natively. But now we are ready to what's called deploy it. Deploy it just means we're ready to use it. It makes it available via a real-time API, does all this stuff in the back end, but most importantly, it just means that we're ready to go and ready to start creating some really cool applications, because that's what it's all about. I purposely want to make that experience of building and training the model and validating it very quick, because it's supposed to be, because this is where the time should be spent, and that's taking that information and putting it into a Qlik application and visualizing and analyzing the information that we get out of it. And so you see here, what I've done is I've taken those predictions and I've now downloaded them, created a standard app, just like any other app, and I can start seeing a lot of really cool things. So if we look here at my next sheet, I know that it's a lot of information, but again, once we have a little bit of understanding about what these actually mean, we can start really seeing and doing a lot of cool things. So we have one customer selected here, okay? And if we look here, we can see that they are at a 59% chance of leaving us as a customer. Here we have prediction explanation. So again, this is the explanation part that I was telling you guys about, is, okay, for this particular customer, because it's different for each customer, we can see that territory is actually positively affecting it. If we go down into the red, these are factors that are actually negatively affecting it. So we can see exactly why this particular customer is predicted to leave us. But then we can do something really, really cool. Remember when I deployed the model, I said it was available via an API? What we can do now with that API is I can send information to the API and get a real-time prediction back as soon as I've done it, and do what is called what-if scenario analysis. This is sort of where I see the majority of our dashboards being built out and being utilized in this manner. So you see here, I have a few, if I can grab it. If I go to prescriptive here. So what I can do is actually take this. I can actually ingest a new sort of plan. I can move the marker, and you can see we now have a bunch of scenarios that we've done it, because we're able to send that information through to the API and say, okay, with all of this new information, what is the updated predictions of this particular customer? So let's try to move them to a different plan. What that's done is I said to the model, I said, okay, let's put this customer on the green plan, And let's see how that updates the prediction. And so now you can see that our original prediction is 58%. And then now we go down to 7.9%. Okay, so this is sort of where we see the bulk of the work using these AI and ML tools, is doing this what-if scenario analysis. Because now I have all the data available. I have, base fee I can change now and get a new predicted value. So I can actually send all these new attributes and say, okay, if I change this customer's base fee, if I put them on a different plan, if I sort of change the percentage that we are sending them mails and informations, is this going to change any of the factors? Is this going to change the outcome of our predictions? So we can actually have this experience where we are in an application really finding out what we should be able to do to help this customer, to help this analysis. We also get things like base fee simulations. So we just have an overall view, and I know there's a lot going on here, but we can see that in these simulations, we can actually know ahead of time that this area here, this is all good. This is all in the green. So if we can go from $44 all the way to $30 in minimizing the base fee, and they will still be in this green zone. They will still be able be predicted to stay with the company. But as soon as we go to 60 or to 20, you can see that the prediction is saying that they're probably going to leave us and leave us as a customer. So you can see a lot of really, really cool things with this, right? I mean, extend this to whatever sort of organization that you are in. We're talking marketing segmentation. What if we send this market segment this particular information? Will that increase our retention rate, or will it increase sales if we do this? I work with a lot of, and I'll be giving an example a little bit later about sales organizations that actually want to predict their quarterly sales, and they want to make sure that they're going to hit their targets based on the amount of calls, based on the amount of time in the field that they have. This is all able to simulate and to predict inside of these dashboard applications. So pretty cool, right? Let's look at another thing that we've discussed a lot today, and that's ChatGPT. And when I first heard, of course, that Qlik wanted to have some sort of implementation of ChatGPT, my mind kind of was open-ended, right? I mean, what can you do with this stuff? You can do a lot. And how does that get into Qlik? Because what we definitely don't want to do is send our company data through to ChatGPT's APIs and say, how are we looking this fiscal year? We don't trust it that well yet, right? So it's a little bit touchy, especially in Qlik, as we are a data software. However, we need to be in this space. I mean, I use this for work, and I won't tell you what, but mostly scripting and stuff like this. So I know that there's applications for it, and we certainly are developing for this. So I wanted to give you some early insight into how exactly we plan to implement ChatGPT in the platform. And first and foremost, let's just think about data and getting data. So here in this new implementation, you can see I can click Add New Data Set. And instead of just uploading or connecting to a data source, maybe I would like to fetch it. Maybe I'd like to fetch it from the internet. Maybe I'd like to fetch it from ChatGPT. So what I can do is click here and click Find Data. I can write a prompt. In this particular prompt, it's top 10 agricultural disasters by year, month, damage, and disaster type. So those who haven't seen the next step, can you imagine what's happening here? We're asking it a question, and then we're actually getting a columnized response back. So imagine fetching data for an application that you're building, and you want these particular dimensions, but you want them sort of columnized. We have the ability to do that, as you can see here. So not only have we gotten this information back, but it's formatted, it's inside of our Qlik environment, and it's available to use. So I simply click Create Now, and boom, it's a QVD. So now we have a QVD file with this data that we've went and fetched through the OpenAI APIs, and we're able to do what we always do with it and build applications. A little cool bonus thing is part of that response from ChatGPT is that we've got a nice description. So we have, what exactly is in this data set, what does it represent, and so forth. Cool little thing that I think is very nice. So let's create an analytics app and look at some more features that we are leveraging ChatGPT to do. So Dan mentioned one of my favorite implementations of this tool. This is actually the first thing that when I thought of Qlik and I thought of ChatGPT, I will admit I'm not the best at the script editor, so sometimes I get a little bit stuck. I've been very comfortable now asking ChatGPT how to make expressions inside of Qlik. And I think I'm not the only one in the organization. Therefore, we have this really, really cool implementation of a expression editor, expression generator. So now that I have my data set, I can say something like number of disasters. And you see now what Qlik has done. It has generated a Qlik expression that is adherent to the data set that we have just created. So that is, for me, a game changer. We can take this a bit further and say even number of disasters for flood for a particular value. And it actually will generate a set expression. So I've done some testing on this, and I can tell you that I have yet to fool it. So this is just such a helpful and great implementation. We talk a lot about, Dan talked a little bit about Copilot, and a lot of these coding tools that we can really just generate codes for entire websites just by saying, do this for me. I never thought it'd actually be extended to Qlik, where I can actually say, maybe in the future I write a script that sort of takes these values, joins it with this, sets these expressions. I mean, all of this kind of stuff. This is sort of the possibilities and capabilities that we're sort of looking towards in the future. So let's just apply that to our sheet, of course. It doesn't stop there. I go back to our Insight Advisor, which again was the first example of sort of what we're doing with AI and how we've enhanced the authoring experience. But now if I go to suggested analysis, we're actually again able to leverage ChatGPT to sort of look at our data sets and actually give us even more targeted analysis that would make sense for our data set. So we are analyzing, natural disasters, and they say, okay, you're targeting natural disasters. What sort of analyses would be relevant to you? So we look at something like frequency analysis, analyzing the frequency of disasters by country and disaster type. Vulnerability analysis. This is actually, if you saw before, this was actually the trend over time analysis, but now it has been sort of more targeted and enhanced to say vulnerability analysis, identifying the most vulnerable countries just to specific types of disasters. So as you can see, it's a more sort of focused, directed sort of experience utilizing, of course, ChatGPT. So if we just click, damage analysis, we, of course, get the same results where we get, of course, a table visualization here. But we can up-level our insights a little bit even more now. Of course, with these large language models, insights is sort of one of the first things that we look at to enhance this a bit. So really cool things. We can look at background information. So it's looking at the data set and it's looking at the background. It's giving us a little bit of information even about our own data set. So if I look at the first example, it says natural disasters such as floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes are most common types of disasters worldwide. Now you know, thanks to ChatGPT. So a lot of really cool background information. I think one of the most promising implementations is here, and that's dataset recommendations. And I can see that it's a little hard to read. So what this is described as columns needed for identifying the most common types of disasters and their associated damages. So it's actually looking at our data set and saying, these values would actually enhance your analysis even more and enhance your data set even more. So we can look at number one. It says a recommendation would be bringing in what's called disaster category. And it gives us an explanation. This column would provide a broader classification of disasters, such as natural disasters, man-made disasters, technological disasters, etc. So really gives us additional information that we can bring in and actually make our data set even stronger. I can, of course, change the insights, change the analysis, and sort of continue on our natural progression to building this dashboard and visualization. So I hope that took a little bit of what Dan was saying. I will go through this in more of a use case-oriented examples in the last session. But I hope you can see that we are taking all of these trends and all of these technologies that are so prolific and so and are trending right now, and actually making real applications and real use cases for them in the platform that I hope you can see will have a lot of value for you guys and in your workflows when you work inside of Qlik. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you.